Okay, we're going to talk about plate boundaries in plate tectonics. And we have three types of boundaries. We have convergent, we have divergent, and we have transform. And I use hand signals a lot as the kinesthetic to help remember this. And even if you don't use your hands, if you think about the hand movement, I do believe it'll help. So our first is a convergent, and convergent, to converge, means to come together. And we have three different types that can happen. We can have continent-continent, we can have continent-ocean, and we can have ocean-ocean. So when we take a look at this, we have three different, sorry about that, we have three different scenarios that can take place. Okay? So the first one that I'm going to talk about is when we have ocean-ocean. And when we have ocean-ocean come together, it converges, the more dense is going to go down. And we have subduction taking place. So when we take a look at this, we have ocean-ocean. Well, which one is older? Which one is more dense? Well, the older the plate, that is more time it's been pushed together. That means it has more time to be compressed. So that one becomes older. And as it subducts, we end up with an ocean trench. And when we take a look at ocean trenches, the one that is most prevalent is the Marianas Trench. And my problem is I want to keep on saying Mariana. Okay, and there were two films that were two movies that were filmed there or near. One is Finding Nemo. If you've ever watched Finding Nemo, it was filmed in an ocean trench or near the ocean trench off from Australia. And Meg, if you haven't seen Meg, it's kind of a good / stupid movie. So this is ocean-ocean. And when we have subduction, anytime we have subduction taking place, we are going to have island arcs or volcanoes. So if we take a look at right along here, all of these, Japan, all of these are volcanic islands. All the way up to Alaska, the panhandle of Alaska, and if you've ever watched the Most Deadliest Catch, those little islands are all volcanic islands from ocean coming together. And here's another video, another picture. I just love taking a look at these types of things. So this trench is all due to the Pacific Plate moving to the northwest. Okay. Another type is when we have continent coming together. And a video that was filmed there was Batman Begins. If you haven't seen it, I think it might be PG-13 or worse. So don't go home and say, well, Mr. LeBert told me to watch this. But there's a portion of it that takes place in the Himalayas. And if we take a look at, this is the Indian Plate, and it's going to the northeast, ramming into the Eurasian Plate. The Eurasian Plate necessarily isn't moving to the southwest, but the Indian Plate gets jammed in. And as it gets jammed in, we have a mountain range and a plateau on the backside. One thing I don't like about this graphic is that it looks like we have subduction taking place. And we're not necessarily going to have subduction taking place, because if we had subduction taking place, that would lead us to believe that we're going to have volcanoes somewhere. So not necessarily having subduction. Okay, and then we have continent-ocean. And when we have continent-ocean coming together, the oceanic plate is more dense, so it's going to go down under the continent. And if we take a look at the Juan de Fuca Plate, it's just fun to say, the Juan de Fuca Plate, this is the North American Plate. This is Washington. So as the Juan de Fuca Plate gets subducted underneath the oceanic plate, we have a line of volcanoes. So we will have a trench, not necessarily as grand as the Marianas Trench, but we do have a trench, and we do have volcanoes that form. And there's an old movie called St. Helens with Art Carney that was filmed there. Okay, and then we have divergent boundaries. And divergent boundaries is when we have land being spread apart. And sometimes we have magma coming up, or magma coming up turning into lava, and sometimes we don't. Okay? So if we take a look at a divergent boundary, the most notable divergent boundaries are going to be mid-ocean ridges. And if we take a look at the mid-ocean ridge, or specifically the mid-Atlantic ridge, it goes right through Iceland. And you may have not known this, but Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars story, was filmed in Iceland. You see my stupid way of trying to remember some of these is by having a movie that you may or may not know anything about. Like, I had to look up St. Helen. But I'm going to have a movie for everyone. Okay, so as that land pulls apart, new stuff is going to come up. But sometimes it happens during or in a continent, in between a continent. And if we take a look at right here is the East African Rift. So this is the African plate, and we have the African plate is breaking up into two different parts, and as it breaks apart, sometimes we'll have ourselves a crack, and sometimes it will pull apart like silly putty. And a lot of times, as it pulls apart, it will become filled in with water, and sometimes we'll start off with a lake, and sometimes it'll turn into a sea. Like the Red Sea is a divergent boundary. And a notable video that was filmed in the East African Rift is Lion King. So I don't know their names. I'm not even going to pretend. Okay, but if you watch Lion King again, that was filmed in the East African Rift. So here it is as it's pulled down. And a lot of times you're not going to see this distinct ridge that happens or hill because weathering takes place. It doesn't move fast. Okay. Transform boundaries is when they slide past each other. And slide's not a good word because there's going to be friction and they're not going to move. And the most notable one is the San Andreas Fault. So here's Baja, California, the San Andreas Fault. There is a movie called San Andreas with Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock. That is so it's moving past each other, and I don't like using the word slide because that means it's smooth, but it moves past each other, and we'll be talking about that later. Okay, so what causes this to take place? Well, we have convection, and we've already talked about convection. And when we take a look at in the mantle, we have uneven heating. And that uneven heating is going to have, we're going to have an area where the magma is moving up. And when it moves up, it's going to go up and it's going to hit the crust or the lithosphere. And then it's going to want to move out because it can't go up anymore. And as it moves out, it's going to, with the friction with the crust, it's going to move that crust that way. So the convection that takes place inside the mantle is the driving force or the mechanism that is that sets plate tectonics apart from continental drift. The mechanism is convection. Okay, so when we take a look at this, there are three types of forces that take place that move. The first one is ridge push. And ridge push, well, I guess the first one is going to be friction, because as this convection that takes place, we're going to have friction. Two is ridge push. So as soon as that magma breaks, we're going to have a ridge and it's going to go up, and gravity is going to push that plate down. So we have friction and we have ridge push. Okay, and the last type, which is and the most believed to be the strongest or the one that causes the most movement, is called slab pull. So as soon as that slab starts to go down for subduction, it's going to keep going down. And one of the real life things that you may have experienced is if you've ever had the opportunity to stick your foot into a big mud puddle, you stick it in there and you try pulling up and it doesn't want to come up, but as soon as you release pressure, it kind of goes down a little bit more, and it doesn't matter what you do, your foot doesn't want to go up, it just wants to go down. Another example of this is I used to build houses, and when I was really, really young, we were on a really steep roof, and we took a rope and tied it to one person on one side of the roof up and over to me on the other side of the roof. I was bigger, and I was supposed to keep this person from falling off the roof. Well, first of all, you have a rope around your waist and you fall, it's going to just cut the person in half. But besides that, I was probably twice this kid's size. What happens if I fall off this side of the roof? Well, if I fall off this side of the roof, it doesn't matter. That kid's going up and over. Okay, so that's that concept of slab pull. That as soon as it starts going down, it's just going to keep on going down. Okay. At any time we have subductions, we're going to have volcanoes, and I'll be talking about volcanoes later. Have a great day. Sorry for this video getting long.